Ahoy, friends. It's me, Dave Landau. After a long night on stage, I like to kick back with a captain's hat and a fine cigar and watch the Dennis and Andy show. These guys are huge nerds, but they're the kind that you actually want to hang out with. Enjoy them. I do.
Well, hello, everybody. What is up? It is the Dennis and Andy show. We are back. It is Wednesday. It is earlier than usual because 5 o'clock, my daughter needs to be picked up from work, and that is what I do. Among everything else. I mean, I just really do everything around here.
He's a taxi, he's a chauffeur, and he's a comic book guy.
And for my wife, I'm a gigolo.
That's right. That's why he has to write comic books, because he doesn't make enough money on his other job.
She's never going to pay for it. She gets the milk for free, baby. What is up, everybody? Randy Howell, AJ in the house. Hello. Randy's in the house. Marcus is in the house. Randy's posting links like a champ. That's what we like to see. Thank you, Randy. That's right. We'll bring our guest on in a second. Mark A. Nelson to talk Thunder Hunters, his new project. Of course, Kor-Drath, The Reckoning on Indiegogo. And guys, if you haven't seen it yet, do we have a treat for you? We talked, since we have so much art done, I was like, you know what? Let's have our buddy Nick make us a trailer. Nick does all these great trailers. I've worked with Nick before. Graham works with him. Aaron works with him. He does great work. So he hooked us up. We got a new trailer for Kor-Drath. Click the link below, or we're going to show it right now. Oh my Lord, where's my bucket of popcorn? That's the trailer I want to see going to a movie. Good googly moogly. Nick knocked it out of the park. Home run. So that is now on the campaign page on YouTube. So check it out. Agreed, the trailer is fire. Thank you, AJ. Great trailer. Thank you, Marcus. One slick dude, hail to you. Just hanging. What do we got here? Turks 9, can't wait to read Kor-Drath and go through the artist edition. Well, thank you so much to everybody that's backed it. I did start working on page 56, so it is moving along nicely. Just look at the side, see if there's any other comments I need to pull up real quick. I think we're good. I think we're good. Got a bunch of them here. Santiago, I like to give some shout outs. Hello. Oh, you gave Dennis a capital D, but
That's
you gave me
right. Little Andy, capital Dennis.
Oh my God.
That is the way it should be.
You know, it's that little stuff like that. I know it was a typo on your part. You forgot to hit the shift key, but he takes these things literal. Well, he's going to love that.
See, the thing
he will lord that over me.
Actually, I'm willing to bet he tried hard, but he couldn't change the font for Andy into smaller. Otherwise, he would have gave you like a 6 font. I like that.
Oh, I like that.
I'm good.
forgive Dennis. He's a little upset now that the Aaron Rodgers trade has gone through and he's now a Jet. He understands that the Packers are going to suck big D
I don't think so.
for the next couple years.
I don't think so. I think it will be rebuilding, but I don't think we're going to have like Cowboy rebuilding seasons.
They'll get 1 year.
Get 1 or 4 wins.
They get 1 year out of Jordan Love. That's his name, right?
Sure.
What's his name?
It is Jordan Love.
Jordan Love.
But you don't know.
They get 1 year out of Jordan Love this season. Next year, they realize he shit the bed. He gets traded to a different team. Then they're looking to draft a quarterback. Not that they'll have the number 1 pick, but they'll be within the top 10 probably.
AJ says, cut it out. He wants Mark Nelson. And I agree with AJ. Andy will just sit here and rant for hours. So why don't we bring in our awesome guest, Mark A. Nelson. Welcome, Mark. That was perfect timing.
It was. Look at that. He's eating. Beautiful.
He was getting ready for the show.
He's like, I got to eat something before I can stomach these two idiots.
Well, it's sort of funny. I'm listening to you guys talk, and I go, I'll have a handful of peanuts just before. And as soon as I went, whoop, you went, and here he is.
You know, once again, Dennis needs to work on his timing. I keep telling him.
I don't think it's my timing. I don't control the buttons. But
you're the one that says bring him in, so I listen to you.
AJ said he's our wrench. AJ, you're awesome. Well, Mark, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us.
This flip screen is really bugging me.
Why?
I'm starting to look like Mo Howard. Okay.
You're going through all these different hairstyles. First it's on the side, then the middle, then you had bangs. You're just making me jealous. I only got hair to play with in one area, and nobody sees it except my wife.
Now I'm a unicorn.
Yeah, you are.
Okay.
Now you're a
When by unicorn you mean one of a kind.
That's right.
Aw, yeah. I when I pass gas, it's little stars and floaties.
God, I wish that was happen when Dennis does.
Yep.
Instead, I got to run for a gas mask before I pass out.
That paint peels, and I'm like, that's what you get. We call that retribution.
I've shared a hotel room with him, and he says he has to wear that oxygen thing because of that breathing BS. That's not why. He rips them loud and proud in the middle of the night so he can sleep through the night because he'd kill himself with his own stench.
It does have a filter, if that were true.
No, my wife has a CPAP, and so do I. And she gets really mad because she said when the cat jumps in the bed and breaks wind, she can smell that. So, you know.
I don't know. You got to try those ones. I keep seeing commercials for this one thing. It begins with it's some new medicine. It begins with the I that is supposedly you don't need the mask or anything anymore. So
that's about the information I usually get.
Yeah.
I saw this one thing, and it starts with this one letter of the alphabet, and it's supposed to be really good.
Maybe if you actually saw commercials, you'd see it.
Yeah, why would I see?
Try it, and then, for all you know, it could work wonders, and you wouldn't have to sleep with that on your face anymore.
Yeah, none of that's true.
How do you know?
When do you guys want to talk about Thunder Hunters?
Yeah, yes. Baby. Well, before we get to Thunder Hunters,
yes,
you know, we got to delve into some of your background and stuff.
I know this is the first time you've been on our show, so our audience definitely wants to get to know you there, Mark. So I guess we start off usually with our origin story. So that is what got you into leading up to where you're into right now. How did you get into either comics or art or, you know, whatever? What got you started?
Well, as I was talking to you guys earlier, I sort of have a checkered past. I actually started out in the fine arts as a printmaker, and I got my degrees in drawing and printmaking, and I was teaching at Northern Illinois University in lithography, and they started an illustration school. Department. They started an illustration department. And I'm a very trained representational, draftsman.
Right.
So I, had been teaching figure drawing, basic drawing, and all that. So they plopped me into an illustration class, and I had been doing a lot of science fiction and fantasy drawings just for myself, but sticking them in a portfolio and not showing anyone. And my wife said, you need to start doing something with that because the bed's tilting. And I went, okay. And so I started doing some freelance illustration for fantasy newsletter. I got involved in a small independent company, a comic book company in Naperville called Just Imagine Comics and Stories. And that led me to meeting Hilary Barta. And I went when I went to First Comics, Joe Staten was the art director there and asked me if I would be interested in inking Hilary. And I said, sure. And he gave me the job, luckily, after I did my tryouts. And that started there, working at First, doing inking Star Slayer over Hilary. And then when Hilary left, I'm sorry, I can't remember the other guy's name. But then I started doing backup features in Nexus called Clone Zone, the Hilaritor, which is a funny animal story. And we did a spoof on Godzilla. And then I got a phone call from Randy Stradley at Dark Horse asking me if I'd want to do some Godzilla covers. And I said, sure. And after that, they said, we've got a secret project we're working on. You know, if you sign an NDA and all that, we'll tell you what it is. And turns out it was aliens. So, of course, I wanted to do that very badly.
Oh, yeah.
So that's where it kind of started. And then from there, I've worked with a creator-owned project at DC, a creator-owned project at Marvel. I worked with Clive Barker. I've also done a ton of TSR work before they were bought by WotC. So if you go back to your D&D campaigns, and I think it's second or third edition, and I painted dragon covers, dungeon covers, interior art, game module art, and I've done a lot of Magic cards and illustrated some independent publishers, Subterranean Press, doing a lot of Jill Lansdale work and Cemetery Dance. And I'm sort of all over the place. I'm not like when you think of good old Jack Kirby, the King.
Oh, yeah.
Where he sort of, I only did 9,000 issues of the Fantastic Four, boing. So, yeah.
As soon as you mentioned the Nexus backups,
Mm-hmm.
I got like this quick flash remembrance because I love Nexus and I have the whole run of the original, the original series from then. And as soon as you said that, I got this little flashback and I'm like, oh my God, I remember that now. Holy crap. What was the creator-owned stuff at DC and Marvel you did?
I did a project with Baron at Marvel called Feud through Epic, which was their creator-owned line. And it's sort of 4 races of reptilian and lizard-like animals that live in 4 different societies, and they get involved in a war. It was just great. I loved doing that one.
Did you paint that, or was that?
That was still done traditionally, and it was also done with all the old, coloring guides. If you remember those. Yeah. So that
did you do those color? Did you color it too, or somebody else did?
No, I had a colorist, Ray Murtaugh. I was lucky enough. He was living in the Chicago area and he did a great job on Feud. And then the creator-owned project at DC was Blood and Shadows, which is a incredible, it starts out in the 1940s, goes back into the 1800s, and then it zooms into the far future. And if you've read Lansdale at all, he is an incredible writer. And, I could have gotten a lot gorier than I wanted. It's a horror book because the main bad guy takes people's heads and skins them and then wears their faces as masks and different things.
Oh, I might have to look for that. Was that collected into like a trade or anything?
No, they just did the 4 issues, and they sort of didn't number them on the outside. So people go, I bought Blood and Shadows, but it didn't make sense, and it's like, well, because there's 3 more issues. Like I said, it starts out in the 1940s, because when Joe and I were working on it, we said, well, what do we, we were talking about what we each like. We both love film noir. We both love Western movies. And we both love sort of the Mad Max, the apocalyptic future world thing. So that's where, like in the future world there, you go to a child abuse center to abuse your child.
Right.
So that's Joe,
Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
And then
Santiago says, Mark, my daughter just loved your book. She wanted to thank you for it. So,
which book?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Which book you talking about?
The other book that I've done that I'm pretty proud of is I did a world fantasy building book with Dover Publications. And what it is since I've worked in video games and I've worked in, all over the place with comics, designing worlds and things like that. I did a whole book. It's about 125 pages and it's just filled with artwork. And it's about how I do stuff, what I think about. It's not really a, here, copy, draw a circle, draw a cube. It's more or less, okay, you're going to design a sword. What do you got to think about? Where do you go? What are you thinking about with references, different kinds of swords, different that? Yeah. What are you referencing? So there's a lot of references, of going into that kind of stuff. I mean, it's also incredibly art heavy. So
I believe that's the book. Is it A Guide to Developing Mythic Worlds and Legendary Creatures?
Yep, that's it. Yeah. Well, Santiago, thank your daughter. And I'm glad she enjoys it. Because the one thing I did in that book, too, which I really liked a lot, was I could do playful stuff. So I could show, okay, you can do a dark image, but you can also do playful. Because, Clone Zone and Baron said to me, make it Disney, make it more Disney-like, clean line, that kind of stuff. So that means you got to, this whole thing about style to me is something I don't really try to worry about, because as an artist, you're a visual problem solver. You set up a series of problems that you're going to solve. And the way you solve them, are you going to do it linearly? Are you going to do it with volume? Are you going to do it this way? You're going to do it that way. Mm-hmm. A lot of things that you can play with as variables. And that's the thing I really talk about in the book.
Yeah, no, I bought it. I was telling you that at South Carolina Con. And I thought it was fantastic. And, I get books like that still just because, A, if I like the art, and B, just it is a nice way to kind of, get inside the artist's head to see what their thought process is going into that. Because a lot of people don't understand that, if it is just something like a sword that you're designing, a lot of people not in the business or that don't do this just will assume, I guess they just take out a blank sheet of paper and start sketching. And it's like, now some people do that, but a lot of times we'll look at different things to get inspiration for the design and then try to meld something together that's unique into all its own, and then if it's successful, people are like, you're a genius. And you're like, oh, let me just get these references off my desk.
Well, the thing is like, if you think about, Jack Kirby, when he was drawing sometimes guns in the old Captain America and that, they were pretty much just boxes, they weren't elaborate. But now we have all this reference and information, and people know what a Glock is. They know what an AK-47 is. They know what all these different weapons are. So if you're working as an illustrator with an artist and he's mentioning certain guns, you have to go out and get reference on those guns. You just can't fake it anymore,
Right.
So you have to create that believability, and you have to do your research, and you have to do all that kind of stuff. I mean, when I was living outside Chicago, you could walk into the Art Institute and just walk into the armor room and see all these different types of swords, crossbows, black powder guns, different things. Amazing, absolute, weapons that were designed. And, you sit down and you can develop that. You can take some of those things, add a little bit more to it. And, or, you look at, what I've seen just in contemporary automatic weapons and automatic shotguns. All you got to do is go to the grocery store and pick up, the newest, whatever, guns and ammo or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And, you're seeing stuff that's just amazing. So.
Yeah, and you can take that stuff, it's just talking about like designing guns and stuff. You could easily look at one of the new modern military weapons, and just in its own, blow it up, make it huge, add different things to it, and the next thing you know, you've got a whole different style and different type.
Well, having worked in, jokingly we called it the BFG. You know what that stands for, right? The big fire truck and gun.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we were you're designing stuff. I always loved that one Bill Sienkiewicz cover, of Elektra standing there. She's got a gun the size of Manhattan.
Yeah.
We all kind of like that stuff, and it's always kind of fun. So, it just depends on how far you want to push it. I mean,
well, I think that takes, getting into comic books. The thing I loved growing up and reading Kirby and even John Buscema and stuff was, they were just making that stuff up. And then even especially Kirby, when he was drawing buildings, you're just like, dude, man, you are tripping with these, the lines on the buildings and stuff, because it just wasn't windows. He was just putting lines everywhere and stuff. But it worked, obviously, with his style because it was always consistent. It wasn't like, turn the page, what is this?
Yeah.
But one of the things I loved that attracted me to want to draw comics was it's like, oh, I can just make stuff up. But, as you're young and you're growing as an artist and your style progresses, if it progresses more towards kind of like a stylized realism, which is what I consider what I do, you go, I can't get away with buildings like that because it doesn't work with what I do, because the figure work and the other design stuff I do isn't that stylized. So I do have to, reference more at least to try and ground it some in reality.
And that comes to, you're creating your imagery, your work, you're creating the believability of your world. So that's something you sometimes have to be conscious of. And okay, wait a second. How long was Mark at Raven? I was there for 6 years. And if you've played the Star Trek game,
calm down, Dennis. Calm down. Dennis is a big Trekkie. You just said the magic word.
Right. Everything that was not in the actual Star Trek universe, in other words, all the stuff that was in the Bible, most of the other artists did, except I did a lot of the faces of the characters. So all the creatures, all the new worlds that they went to and all that, except for one spaceship and one creature are me. I painted the background tiles. I designed the creatures. I did all that stuff. And in Doom, if you play Doom, I designed a lot of the floating guy with all the saws and the buzzsaw arms and everything. I designed that. And some of the more disgusting, gross musculature on the doors and things. So I've done a lot of that. And
oh, that's awesome.
That is. I played that game a lot.
It's fun, my problem is, as an artist, I just like seeing, my characters running around. And so they would give us the thing so we could do the skins, and then we could watch them running around and doing all this stuff. And then they would give us make a practice level so we could play and just have some fun. And they always could tell where I was, because I'm standing there like this, looking around at all the seams and the ceilings to make sure that it all worked better and this and that. And then they'd come by and kill me, So, yeah, I was not the sharpest knife in the drawer when it came to playing video games. But, I worked on the Star Wars one. I designed most of the bad guys for that and a lot of the spaceships. And Phil Moy and Andy. Oh, Andy, you're going to kill me. I forgot. Andy did a lot of the work on the other characters and different things. So, yeah, it's a collaborative effort. There's a lot of people working on it.
What kind of turnaround time do they ask for in like a design for a character? I mean,
the thing is when you start talking about a big boss, at the end of the level, there's about 8 of them. But if you're working for about, a year to sometimes 2 on a game, I mean, you're the bosses and that are all designed within a month at least. I mean, each one maybe a month, but then you have to design. I did so many level designs and designing of rooms and the way things moved and different things. God, I just have a whole file folder just full of all the because you walk into the room and there's a big machine going ka-chunk, ka-chunk, ka-chunk. Well, I designed a lot of those, so those are the become whatever the elements that add into it, and then the gameplay is worked off of that. So there's all sorts of things that you end up. The thing I keep telling people, I said the most that you will were crates. I have done more crates than anything else in video games.
Really?
Well, I mean, where do you go to get your spare ammo? You smash it. Well, if you're in the Klingon world, you have to have a Klingon crate. If you're in, a Ferengi world, you have to have a Ferengi crate. If you're in the Federation, you have to have a Federation crate. And if you're in, Bob Joe's Taco Shop, you have to have a Bob Joe's Taco Shop crate. In fact, I worked on Soldier of Fortune and I designed one crate and I wrote in Chinese on the outside of the box, "The hero is hiding in here."
No way.
Yeah. I think it got passed too because they're real careful about that you don't say something bad. So
that's what I was going to ask. Did it get passed all the way through?
Yeah, it's in the game. Mm-hmm.
Really? And that's what it said. That is hysterical. Let's see. Work on Punisher was the one to do most of the real weapons. Before him, everything was Uzis. Mm-hmm. That's a good point, too. I remember even when I was drawing stuff when I first broke in and it was guns. And if the writer didn't specify, what type, my knowledge of guns was very limited. So, and I have a replica Uzi. So I would just be like, all right, draw the guy holding an Uzi because I got one right here that's, life size and stuff that I can photograph and such if I have to. So,
I mean, one of the guys that writes comics, his father was a gunsmith. So you can't fake it with him. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, it's that kind of thing. I mean, I've got probably, you see the library behind me.
Yeah.
I've got at least, I've got one book that's just nothing but Civil War weapons, night records, different type of maces, different kinds of this. And then, there are so many, there's Colt. So I have a whole book just on Colt and what they made, or Smith and Wesson. And then you have the contemporary army. And then I have all those sort of beautiful little paperback books of men at arms and going through all things like Vietnam and this and that. Nowadays you can kind of hit all that stuff on the internet, which is why I always say I'm an old illustrator. We didn't have that stuff. If it wasn't in the library or you couldn't find it, you were kind of SOL.
Well, I was going to actually ask, because that's a great point, because I don't have as much. I've got lots of books, but most of them are trade paperbacks and books about specific artists, not real reference stuff. Mm-hmm. Now, I used to have more because, I broke into comics in 91, so it was before the internet. So I would buy books on the different things I was drawing. And after moving so many times and with Google, I got rid of a lot. But my question is, so when you have to look up reference, do you go to your books or do you just go, Google?
Both.
Oh, yeah?
Because there's been plenty of times, and to be bluntly honest, that I couldn't find what I wanted on Google. Yeah. Because, again, you're limited by the photos that people are posting. I've got a book back here on typewriters, and it goes way back to the very first typewriter. And they are the most bizarre-looking machines and incredible. Really? If you want to just make, some incredible spaceship engines, I've used that book for all that kind of stuff. Now, I can't find photos of some of those typewriters back then. Or, like, if you're trying to find, say, something like an old car, you only get one picture or one angle or one, so sometimes it's if you've got a book that is like, the complete history of Henry Ford or whatever, you're going to sort of find they might show it from different angles, different kinds of things. And actually, in what I have done since when I was at Raven, I learned to use Max, so I could actually create some of my props in 3ds Max, and then rotate them around, and then take wireframe pictures and have all my perspective right.
Well, that's what's nice about Google SketchUp, that program. That I use that. Well, I have it on the computer. It's their 3D program where I don't need it for Kor-Drath because that's all barbarian stuff. But when I do normal superhero stuff, and it's like, oh, draw this car or whatever, I don't have to make it. I can just go to their 3D warehouse where people will upload models they built, and you can download them for free. And so it's like, oh, I need to draw a brand new Mustang. Okay, oh, there it is, download it for free, and I can look at it in any angle I want as a line drawing and, basically use that.
See, my problem is that sometimes I'm moving ahead and sometimes I'm an old dinosaur. So wait a second, you called that Google what?
It's called SketchUp.
Wait, now that was, I used that a long time ago. You have to pay for it now, don't you?
Yeah, unfortunately you do. Well, they have I think 3 different levels. I think they have a free level, which is just in your browser. But the workaround is if you have screen capture software, you can't save anything. So that's a downside. But if you move it to the angle you need, you can just do your screen capture software, capture it as a JPEG, and you got it. And then you can pay for one level, which I think is still on the browser, but you can save stuff. And then you can pay for another level, which you actually download it to your computer. So, you just open up the program like you would Photoshop or something. And that's what I use. And I've got, the farthest I've gone is I've built like rooms and like a house and stuff. So, because I'm like, oh, it's this guy's bedroom. I'm going to be drawing it. I might as well just build it so I can move the camera around it and stuff and save it.
Yeah, I did that, like I said, Max, but I don't have Max anymore. But it is the kind of thing that it saves you time. But it also makes you become a lot more aware of your space and what you're doing with your space. So, yeah, I generally enjoy that stuff. I played with SketchUp quite a bit, but the hard part is sometimes, there's so many of these programs that come out that are, good programs, but if you spent all the time learning them, we'd never be drawing,
Right.
So
no, and I've had that. I've gone down like that learning it rabbit hole where I'm like, oh, I'll just spend a half hour this morning messing around. Next thing I know, it's like 3-4 hours later, and I'm like, damn it, my days, I just screwed myself. AJ has a question. He says, Mark, with all the work that you've done in video games, did you embrace digital art? Also, are you traditional or digital for Thunder Hunters?
Actually, right now, I've tricked you all with my magic that you think it exists. No, I'm kidding. Just like the dead. Since I worked in video games, it's all digital. And the thing is that for me, digital coloring just moves so fast. And I used to do a lot of marker renderings when I was working commercially. And now I can do a grayscale marker rendering faster, and it's cleaner and it looks nicer in Photoshop. So I'm a mix of both. I still, in all honesty, like I think I said earlier with you when we were talking, I've worked on paper for so long.
Yeah.
I'm very quick on paper. I can get stuff down. I can get what I want. But it's still, like this last drawing I did, I got the composition down, but it wouldn't fit into the space that I had. So I could go into Photoshop, cut it up, reorganize it, and get it to fit perfectly. So I look at it this way. Whatever tools I can use to get what I want are important, So sometimes when I'm working on toned paper, that's it. You're working on the gray paper because you work with either pencil and ink, and you create your values and you build it up. Now with comics, guys, the amount of stuff you can play with textures and surfaces that I can create and drop into the comic that would be impossible to paint at times. around the characters. So
Sure.
yeah, I'm spoiled rotten with coloring in Photoshop. And again, I have a problem with scale. And I made the joke with these two gentlemen earlier that if I'm working on a Cintiq or something like that, I get headaches. So I work mainly with the Wacom. And the other problem is you're working on an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, and I find myself drawing away, and then I blow it out to what size 8.5 by 11 looks like. And this area that I just been drawing on for an hour is about the size of the left toenail of a fly.
Yeah.
So I just prefer working on paper, getting that done. If I have to do, a full painting, like with some of the magic cards, I did do all the painting in Photoshop, but I still do paint traditionally. So
Yeah.
some of it's the mood I'm in, some of it's how fast the things have to be done, the effects you're trying to achieve. They're all tools, to make our art.
No, I hear you. I did the first time I drew stuff digitally. It's like you said, because you can blow things up so large that I worked on this face on this character, and this was for a comic book, so I printed out 6x9 just to see what it's going to look like, and I'm like, oh my god, that face is literally like maybe 3/4 of an inch big, and it's just overworked, and so if I do draw digitally, I still do a hybrid thing where I don't do finished drawings.
Mhm.
I'll get the layout down and then I'll print it out and really light, basically like a non-photo blue
Yeah.
onto the Bristol, and then I tighten it up and ink it by hand because I know how big it's going to be and I can't just keep blowing it up and stuff.
I
So
do really tight little thumbnails that I blow up, and that's what same thing there.
yeah,
Then I'll repencil the page and get exactly what I want. So yeah, I mean, there's just so many ways to work. Sometimes I just work directly on the page. I just go, okay, I'm starting the story. It's a big, and since the only person I can blame for writing a rat's ass story is me, so that means I go, okay, I want to do this in the first page. Okay, just
well, that's why you got to get a guy like this because I can blame him for stuff like that.
yeah.
So
And when I was working with Verhaden and all those guys, I could say the same thing because of course, it's like after you finished with the falling Eiffel Tower with Godzilla kicking it off and the Arc de Triomphe flying through the air, we want to pan in on a small guy having a cup of coffee in the foreground. And you're just sitting there like going, I'm sending him a letter bomb tomorrow.
yeah, exactly.
A letter bomb.
Derek, thank you so much. You read the first 11 pages. That's right. If you don't know, the first 11 pages of Kor-Drath are actually at Kor-Drath.com. So you can go there and check those 11 pages out. There's only 8 up on the Indiegogo page, but the first 11 are up. And page 9 is in its uncensored glory. We'll just leave it at that.
We could not have that on Indiegogo. And
no.
Randy was wondering why I didn't explode on the screen when you mentioned WotC, that you had done work for Wizards of the Coast, for those of you who didn't catch that reference. Well, the reason I didn't explode, Randy, was Mark was at SC Comic-Con with us, so his booth was literally just a couple of down from us. So we actually stood around and we were chatting about his time, at Wizards of the Coast, TSR. He had kind of filled me in on a lot of the different stuff that he did. And it really is cool. And a lot of the books he was mentioning, even like the Oriental Adventures and stuff, still love that book. I did get rid of a lot of my older stuff when I moved. I regret it severely, but needless to say, I still have some of the books, so I think that's really cool.
Good thing we know somebody who just got a bunch of D&D stuff at their store.
I do.
You could do a big buyback.
I know. I know. Trust me. I looked through. So Rob, the guy who put on SC Comic-Con, he's got a wonderful store, and on his store, he got in a lot of original D&D modules, basic, expert, AD&D modules, a lot of the books, second edition, the different books from 2E and stuff like that. So, and then 3E. So it was very cool. Very cool stuff.
Well, there you go. Well, we'll talk Thunder Hunters when Mark comes back from his extensive library. Good Lord, I didn't realize the room was that deep until you got up and started walking to it.
It's not only deep, it's wide. He's like,
I know. I'm going to actually remove this because I want to see. Look how big that, holy crap. Man, it really does throw you off when you're sitting at your table
actually
in front of the computer.
Full screen it. I want to see some of the books.
He's totally hidden back there. Holy crap, that is huge.
It is. That's a big. He wasn't kidding when he said he built an entire room.
That is nice.
Anyway, what I'm trying to do, and now for some reason, you know how when you want to find something, it's never at your fingertips?
Yeah.
As soon as I hang up with you and stop talking, Frezza.
Yeah.
I was trying to find the thumbnails that I do to show you how tight some of them are, but I will show you this instead. Let's see if you can. The glare. Okay. Because you asked me about black and white, you asked me about color, and the thing about Thunder Hunters with me is I sat down, and I'll do this.
There
you go. You can kind of see.
Oh, wow.
This is, a couple of the panels.
Yeah.
And then you see the big fish comes up.
Yep.
And then it comes after our hero.
Nice.
Now, this works for me in black and white, and I really don't know if I need color. And I think the one thing about Thunder Hunters with me when I was doing it, I just said as an artist, I can work in a lot of different ways. So I can work in pen and ink. I can work like that with the sort of chiaroscuro drawing, which is the old mastered on tone paper with white pencil and black. Mm-hmm. I do traditional ink. I do ink washes. I mean, there's all different kinds of things. And I said to myself, well, if I do Thunder Hunters, I really want to do some of these different things. Yeah. So see, if you scroll down, weep, 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 there's the previews. And if they go on those online, you can really blow those up and look at them. So there's the traditional colored stuff with pen and ink and color. Can you make that bigger? Yeah. And there's another tone paper drawing. Oop, you zip by it. Whoop. There's a couple of royalty, and you can see I'm spending some time building up all the beautiful surfaces and the jewelry, the accoutrements that they would be wearing, and just having fun with all that kind of stuff.
Now, was the one on the left totally toned like the one on the right? And then you took it and colored it, or it wasn't?
It was done as a black and white line drawing.
Okay.
And then it was actually, I don't know if they've got it down there. I can send you a copy, but yeah, I mean, that one's the traditional comic book, pen and ink. I got the original drawing colored in the computer.
Okay.
Same thing with all the rest of these,
Yeah.
So those are kind of fun. And what this is that shows you in the book, this story is called Eyes. And what it does is it gives you a little intro there. And then you see that's the first page to the story.
Yeah, that's cool.
Okay. So I spent a lot of time thinking about the design and how it moves and what it works. There's 7 short stories in the book. It's 104 pages.
Okay.
And then, so go up there. Yeah. So there's 2 more pages from Eyes right there. And they're not in sequence now. So there's stuff that happens in between. But there you go. So that sort of shows you this is what those guys picked. And it's a good example of what is in there. So is there more? And then keep going down. And then, okay, the one on the left was actually a drawing that was inside the pinups, but they liked it so much we made it the cover. And the one on the right is actually what was going to be the cover, but it's now in limbo. Boo-hoo, boo-hoo. Okay, so scroll up a little bit more, or down a little more. And what I have done is I've made a lot of unique little drawings that you can also buy, that they'll actually just slide right into the book. But the second row down, that brown one, is actually an illustration inside the book, which is that of JV out in the wilds with his pet dinosaur dogs going through. And then the rest of these are sort of little things that would be animals he might have seen along the way, or different things that are happening out there, or people and cultures that he's meeting,
Sure.
So there's the winged bear, and go a little bit more. And that blue pencil drawing is actually the first study for all the bad guys that are in a story in the book called Shaman. And what else? And then the other brown ink drawing there on the right is in the book too.
Now, when you do the stuff on the toned paper, I assume you draw it on a separate sheet first and then transfer it to the paper? No, you draw it right on the toned paper?
Yeah.
So you don't, I assume then, because I didn't think you could really erase well on that paper. So I guess you don't really.
I don't erase a lot. I mean,
yeah, I was going to say.
The linear guy I worked with, Jack Youngquist, was always beating into our heads, don't make a line unless you have to. So and it's really hard to do a drawing of video for me because I draw so lightly.
Right.
It's just real delicate and I can see it, and that's all you really need.
Right.
And I'll show people, okay, here's the original drawing. You can see the blue pencil, because sometimes I don't even erase the blue pencil. It's so light.
Oh.
Wow. So again, everybody has their own way of working.
Sure.
And mine is always, if I can hold my pencil up and move around, and if I don't like the line, I don't have to make it. And then when I decide that's the right one, I can drop my point down and make that line. So I've gotten more and more efficient with that way of thinking as I've gotten older. I don't waste time, because that's something. And then also, like you said, is that people draw and erase. The first thing that my drawing teacher did with us is he walked around the room and took all our erasers away.
Really?
Yeah. So then he just said, why? And then sometimes when I give little, people ask me about their art, I'll give a little drawing demo, and I'll talk about that, like these people that draw, 1,000 circles to get the shape of a head. And you're kind of like, if I gave that to somebody to ink, they would be, jumping in front of a train. So again, if you're penciling for ink, you're penciling for this, you've got to learn what the tool does and what you want to achieve with it. So I do think about stuff a lot before I start drawing, and I'm usually very linear, and then I go in and add my values.
Sure. Well, I mean, I think, what was it? Jack Kirby told John Buscema, you don't get paid to erase.
Yeah, that's a great line. I got to remember that one.
Yeah, it was. I'm pretty sure Jack told. Actually, here Marcus and I are thinking along the same thing. What did he say? That's like Kirby's story. Yeah, that J.R. Jr. tells. Maybe Kirby told J.R. Jr. that, John Romita Jr. I thought he said it to Buscema as well. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Kirby was like, I don't get paid to erase.
Yeah. Then if you keep going down, I did some really dinky little drawings, little card size drawings. So there you go. And then if you keep going down, it's got all the testimonials, and it talks a little bit about all the stuff I've done. And I know there's something I forgot about that I'll remember. But then I've got some nice comments from Jeff Darrow, James O'Barr.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Zach Howard. Yeah, I know Zach.
Yep, Zach is a guy. Ian McCaig, Tony DiGilizzi.
Wow.
And Steve Bissett wrote a very nice one, and so did Kelly Jones. In fact, Steve was so nice, I called him up and said, I'd like to meet that guy too. The nice thing about it, the way they've laid this out, is you can see all that original art a little bit bigger. And, that's kind of fun that way. And that's so far we've got, I'm trying to think of how many pages are art, because 16 of us, so subtract 16 from 104 and you're getting 88. So you've got 16 pages of that are going to be concept art, some of my pencil sketches,
Yeah.
some of my finished pencils, because sometimes my finished pencils are very tight and sometimes they're a little looser when I know I'm going to be inking. So a lot of that is, the mood, the time, how much, how close are we to a deadline. But with Thunder Hunters, it really, here's the funny thing. Slide down just one more. I got to say this. Just
Hold on.
Little more. See right where there it says $10, the big tipper?
Yeah.
Which I think is funny. I asked him to do it just for a joke because Graham does that, and he's got one that says, buy Graham a beer and a cigar.
Oh, yeah, I do that too. Yeah.
So I said, buy me a bottle of ink because the ink I use is $10 a bottle,
Now I'm curious, what type, I like to ask that actually, what type of black ink do you use?
I've been using the Dr. Martin's Star Black, and I like that quite a bit. It's it works out well. The thing that I found that's really also the problem is that a lot of the Bristol boards now have changed their sizings. So the sizing in the paper is, when I work on old Marvel paper, I have a few sheets left.
Yeah.
Boy, the ink just soaks in and it looks gorgeous.
Right.
Now, a lot of the stuff like Fanboy and that, it sits on the top and you got to let it dry, and it doesn't dry that fast. And so the sizings are also different. So I find that I bought Series 5 Strathmore Bristol, the best you supposedly can buy in pads.
Yep.
And I took my color brush and I went to ink a line, and it literally went woo, and feathered out all over the place.
Oh, I just use honestly, because I've used that, I just use their yellow Series 300.
Yeah.
Smooth.
I use the 300 and the 400 now.
Yeah.
But I've noticed that the quality changes because I know they're not quite as, how do I want to say it, particular as they used to be, or they've got different manufacturers across the country. So the one that I was really shocked by was Dick Blick's Bristol board.
Oh, really? I haven't tried it.
Really nice little Bristol board, yeah.
Oh, I might have to give it a shot. I've always just used the yellow pad, but I'm always keeping an eye out. Like you said, the ink that you use, I'll have to try it. I mean, you ink mostly with a brush, or
yes, sir.
And it rolls. It doesn't gunk up the brush or anything too fast, or
I ink also with a quill, but I just clean my quill. But I'm telling you, when I ink with a brush, I use the Pentel color brush, which is
do you really?
That little dye thing on it. And I inked all the Aliens work with that, and that stuff's 30 years old, and those blacks are still just as rich and wonderful.
You're talking the color brush where you have to squeeze the back end to get it down into it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Really? Wow.
That's what I've been using for 30 years. Yeah.
Oh, damn. Okay. Well, that's cool.
I mean, I've done the Winsor Newton, which I loved, but you wear a Winsor Newton brush out in about an issue because the paper is so rough and the ink. I've done Raphael's. I've done all natural hairs. The color brush is a synthetic plastic. And I'll tell you, I buy one brush that cost me about, at that time was $6,
yeah,
$6.98, and it lasted me for 12 issues before I got a new one.
That's weird. I'll have to experiment with those again, because I remember those. I use a Raphael. I just never liked. I've used the Winsor Newton. I just don't like it. I like Raphael though. So
yeah.
McShort posted for you, Mark, and said, "Mr. Nelson, your work in Aliens, the first Dark Horse series, was one of the books that started my obsession for comics and art. Thank you, sir."
Well, then get Thunder Hunters so you can start a new obsession with
that's right.
Guys that draw strange animals and tell stories about fishing for monsters. Woo!
That's right. That's funny. Let's see. Let's go through some of these. Hold on. I'm trying to get the stupid mouse back onto the second screen.
Okay.
Because I want to go through the tiers and stuff. How is it? Damn it.
It's on the right side.
Well,
there we go.
You're doing that right. Always when you go to something like this, scroll down because there is some really, the artwork is I mean, gosh, Graham always says, you got to sell yourself. You got to sell
Oh
yourself.
yeah.
And it's really hard for me to say, yes, I'm so good it hurts, because
No, I hear you.
I don't come from that school. It's like, but I do think that if I have to say anything, this is 100% me. It's the best that I've done, and it's a culmination, of all the forces that I've built up over the years. So I'm really proud of this book, and actually, I have enough artwork almost finished for a second book done.
Oh, cool.
And it's, this is a project that I worked on in between everything else, so I didn't have deadlines. Some of the pages that I colored, took me 2 days, 3 days to color. And I keep hearing from people and very nice comments, and they're saying it's some of the most beautiful coloring. And a couple people said, boy, you can really use blue. That's a tough color. So a lot of coloring people, and I can never say Laverne's last name.
Oh yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, and Greg Wright has complimented my coloring, and that's something that I've worked really, really, really hard with. I'm not the greatest colorist, so that's something I have to work very hard with, And when it comes to drawing pimples on a dinosaur, I'm probably the fourth tier, for number one.
Sure.
Doing pimples on dinosaurs, so I think I'm having fun, but it's just full of wonderful creatures. There's a lot of fun stuff in it, and like what you were asking about, the stuff that I have colored some of those toned paper drawings, and I did those for TSR and some of that kind of stuff. And I haven't done one yet in Thunder Hunters, but I did it for a couple other projects and jobs. I did a short story for a mouse guard. I did a short story that
yeah.
So that was fun. So it's just one of those things that, again, I said, if I'm going to do a book of my own, I want to just be able, if I decide I want to do pen and ink and crosshatch and that's it, I want to do a story. If I want to do tone paper, great. If I want to do full blown color, wonderful. So it's just like whatever the story kind of told me it wanted is what it got. So
would you say, so the book is obviously, it's called Thunder Hunters. You said there's 7 short stories?
Yes, sir.
It is. So is Thunder Hunters the title of one of them? And then you know what I'm saying?
Well, Thunder Hunters are sort of like the area, the universe. And this is,
okay.
Vermilion Sands is where the artist is working. And when you go through and you open up the book, you go a couple pages in and there's a letter that's from the Goodwin Williamson Museum. And they're explaining that they met this guy, came walking into the office, and he had all this art, and they didn't realize what he was. He was sort of like an Audubon or a George Catlin that had gone out into the wilds and made all these drawings and came back in. And he shows up and they went, wow. So this book is the first volume of, the book of his art that the museum is sort of putting out. And
okay.
Yeah, so this is the Vermilion Sands, but it's just like anything else. Vermilion Sands is a giant uncharted area. So if you think about how, different people land in different continents at different times, like with Australia, everybody kind of lives along the coast because you get there first, right? Then you move inward and you go across. So when you have the Lewis and Clarks, or you have other people that are finding out what the rest of the country is like, it's an unknown until those people start bringing stuff back. So that's what this is. It's sort of Vermilion Sands is sort of the unknown, and he brings back some of the myths of the different cultures of, like we all have myths of, how the leopard got its spot, how the tiger got its stripes, So, I mean, it really is. There's a couple of those kind of stories in there, and there's a couple of, I don't really want to give away too much, but there's 7.
There's a myth of how Dennis got totally fell in love with the X-Men, his favorite Marvel book, favorite book ever, that involves a young Dennis sitting on Chris Claremont's lap, to get a book signed. So I say real, some say myth, some say conspiracy theory. I don't know. I'm just going by what Dennis told me.
I think even Chris Claremont would say, nope, myth.
Oh, okay. If you say so. Just
well, we all have our heroes in the comic book, field, and people that I've luckily got to meet only a couple of them, but I remember those meetings very dearly,
Sure.
And I mean, it is the kind of thing that I just came back from the Windy City Pulp, and one of my heroes is Jim Steranko for his art.
Yeah.
And he paid me one of the most incredible comments I've ever had in my career. So it was nice talking with him. And he said that Dover book is a 10-year experience for life.
Oh, that's cool.
He just said it was one of the best things he's ever read. He was just so excited about it. And it was very touching, because I didn't expect that. And I mean, because, well,
you got to get a new printing of it with the Steranko quote on the back.
Yeah.
But then he'll say, it was a myth that Nelson is suffering from delusions of artistic grandeur.
Hey, Mark, McShort's asking, how long do we have to get this? My pay schedule is on the 1st of the month. I'd hate to miss the book.
That's the one thing people ask, and I don't know what they'll say to you, but I think we only have, scroll up. Do they have how many days or left?
It says on the campaign up top, if that's the last one, it says 15 days left.
Yeah, so
15 days, that goes into the 1st of the month, because next week is the 1st of the month.
Yeah,
so that's fine.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, right. Yep.
Yeah.
But just like anything else, you just put it on your credit card. And I was going to say, look at that. You picked up 3 new backers and jumped up. So the DNA bump worked.
Nice.
Yes. Thank you, guys.
So, guys, you can do a $20 digital, which is, of course, nice and simple. It gets delivered right to your inbox, probably.
Yep.
30. Take it over.
I was going to say, I was just saying, somebody mentioned the digital that Zoop has been really good with the digital fulfillment. So that's good to hear. They also have a hard copy for $36, 104 pages of goodness. And for $55, you can get it signed.
Yeah.
So Mark will do a little extra ink and put it on your on your book for you.
Now, if you put 2 zeros on the back of that and make it 5,500, I bet he'll hand deliver it and sign it.
Andy's always trying to get everybody to hand deliver stuff and take planes and fly out.
Well,
just saying.
I'm just saying. I told Dennis on Kor-Drath we should put up a $4,500 tier, limit it to like 3, and for $4,500 in the continental U.S., we will get on a plane, show up at your front door, and hand deliver that book to you, sign it right in front of you, go out to dinner, all that good stuff. I just haven't put it on the campaign page.
All
yet.
on Andy's dime.
No, that's the whole thing. They paid $4,500. And we use that money for the plane ticket.
Oh, is that what that is? Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm glad you explained it to me.
Well, it seemed like somebody had to mansplain it to you. You weren't getting it.
So he also had the remarked hardcover for $85, and it looks like he's got 50 of them, and you've already sold 42.
Nice. Hey, are you going to Heroes Con? AJ wants to know.
I will not this year, sir. It's a great convention. I'm just getting to the point where I'm old and tired, and people say, you want to do a convention? I go, no, I want to stay home and draw.
I know that feeling.
You know what? Slide down. I want to see if I have a bet with my wife if anyone's going to buy me a bottle of ink. So, okay.
Oh, wait.
Hasn't
right
been
there.
taken yet. Okay.
I guess not yet, because it would say, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Anyway, but there also will be some new drawings coming up for sale too.
Oh, cool.
On a new set of little drawings that will come up. So as you sort of scroll through, I think there's just those and one more, and then all the rest of them are the ones that have been sold, and there'll be more coming up. I just keep doing these little drawings.
Oh, nice.
Fun and excitement. So that's
Oh,
another
that's
way
excellent.
you can do it.
Yeah,
So,
that's really cool.
yep, just remember it's just zoop.gg, and that'll take you right to their site, and then you type in Thunder Hunters and you'll be there.
When is the? I'm still getting used to Zoop. What's the? Because it usually says, but their thing's different. What's the estimated ship date after the campaign ends and stuff?
They're talking. Boy, you have to. If you scroll down, I think it says late summer. Because now we have to get the printer, and you got to get into their time slots. Keep going. This book is okay.
Oh, timeline. Hold on. I can just click on timeline. I just saw that.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go. Late summer. There you go. Yep. Cool.
Because really, I mean, Graham gave me his proofreader, so I'm going to use her. And
very cool.
That's all. I mean, I just have to proofread. Most of the stories, well, are silent because I told them in visuals.
Right.
So there's not a lot. So her proofreading is going to be all my bad spelling in the introductory text. Yeah. So
that's great. You know what? I never, as much as I talk to Graham and stuff, I'm trying to remember if he's ever mentioned he uses a proofreader. He might have, and I forgot. But I tell you what, I'm going to have to talk to him about that. Getting her name.
I mean, it's the kind of thing, you're so used to,
you see it so much.
Yeah, and everybody else does all this stuff. And
right.
You sit in your studio and draw. Now that you're the one-man band, in your case, you have Dennis and you, but it's, you're sitting down and you've got to, just double check everything and do everything. And, I had about 3 other people, and one guy I know was a proofreader, and he proofread everything for the Dover book. But when I sent it in, obviously their proofreader made their changes. And, I mean, the thing is that when you're doing what you guys are doing, you're going to know, you're going to say, no, you can't change this or that. But, if you've got something misspelled like Mississippi, no Q in Mississippi, bonehead,
Yep.
You got to do it.
Well, yeah. And I mean, I just, you get to a point when you're looking at the lettering, because we've got lettering coming in now for Kor-Drath and stuff. And, we take our pass at it. All right, looks good. But then when the whole book's done, we'll read it all again. And you just see it so much. You're like, oh, I need a clean set of eyes on this thing.
Well, the other Kickstarter I did was actually with Kickstarter, the Lovecraft book. We had 3 people proofread it. And when it came out, there were still mistakes.
Oh, my God. Somebody needs to be fired for that, I say.
No, I'm just, I always like the people that go, I can't believe you're putting 2 spaces between your period. I could write a whole book with those spaces, And I go over to their house and say, okay, smart buns, write the book. Let's see it. Let's see if you can get it published. I mean, really, you're that affected by an extra space after a period. You can't get involved in the writer's words and what they're saying.
Right. That throws you off that much. Now, the only reason I would ever bring that up is if it was inconsistent. Then I'd be like, dude, you got 2 spaces here. You got 1 here. Keep it consistent. I don't care if it's 1 or 2, but it needs to be the same all the way through.
So those 2 pages that Dennis is on, you're sitting on right now, obviously they don't need a proofreader.
Nope. Nope. Well, if you pay by page, you can be like, well, I guess I only owe you this much. So
yeah, well, she sent me a note on what her rate was, and I mean, once I get everything completely finished, I'm going to send them to her so that she can. Because right now, what I'm doing is I'm doing them all as single pages, doing the design crop marks and all that, so I can send it to the designer to do all the finished work. And I just want her to read that stuff after I get done,
Oh yeah, of course. Of course.
Because then I can go back and make all the changes. But people don't realize how much production there is in doing a book. You know, it's amazing. It's absolutely
No,
amazing.
it's I've said it before that, doing stuff for just drawing a book for Marvel or DC is just so much easier. But this is more rewarding because it's your own thing. It's your baby. You create this thing, or we're creating Kor-Drath, and when it's finally out, it's just cool to know that you had your hands in like every part of it.
Well, and the other interesting thing is, when I wrote it, you write it, and then you've got this idea in your head. Then as you start collaborating, you start seeing it coming out on the pages, and then we want to tweak this or do this. Then when you see what it looks like, you're like, wow. I mean, it's just so different, and it's just so eye-opening what it turns into from what you originally had in your head.
Exactly. Oh, hold on, my wife is leaving. My wife's leaving me. Nope, she's actually has to run out. So,
I mean, it is the kind of thing, as you said. It's even when you sit down and you have a dream and you say, "Oh, I just came up with the perfect composition." You can never capture that in the dream because it's like anything else.
Right.
It's cloud. It's moving. It's doing different things.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But I was just going to say, so far for me, the Zoop guys have been great. They're really
good.
And the main reason, and I've gone with them is, see, Andy, you guys probably have a whole bunch of people that you can rope into helping you pack. And
yeah,
you're looking at it.
It's called this guy.
It's called the two of us. So
yeah, well, I mean, I can't expect my wife to do it, and I'm terrible at doing that stuff. I hate.
Oh no, my wife hasn't helped me fulfill yet. So she's like, "Have fun." I'm like, "Okay."
But Zope does all the fulfilling and all that kind of stuff, so that will make it easier for me to keep going on getting that. And the other thing, and I'm not saying this to sound too dark, but I mean, a big thing for me is, I'm closer to the end of the road than I am to the beginning. Oh. And I'd rather spend my time drawing than folding boxes.
I hear that. I totally understand that. No, I get it. I know people that use Zoop. I know people that use pretty much everyone that's out there. So that's my garage door. So yeah, I get it. But we are using Indiegogo. We'll touch on Kor-Drath real quick before we wrap it up. I showed off the new trailer. So if you missed it, it will be shown again at the end of the stream. Let me just blow up on that. So we're at Kor-Drath, 76 pages. As I like to say, ball-busting barbarian action, bashing its way into your house so you can be awesome and bodacious. I'm just trying to think of B words.
I know. We're one backer away on Indiegogo from 1,300 backers. So
it could be you.
Just remember that. Us. Forward this to your friends. Maybe they'll be the 1,300.
That's right. Wait, Randy says refresh our page. I assume he means ours. Maybe we got it. Let's see. Oh, look at that. 1,300. Whoever that was, thank you so much. I appreciate it. So we are now at 1,300. But for those watching, keep in mind, we are over 80,000 because we did run a campaign on Kickstarter, and that total puts us at about 84, roughly. So with that in mind, the 80,000 stretch goal has been unlocked. We're moving on to the 90,000 stretch goal now. So keep Randy's doing math, it looks like.
He is doing math.
Oops, that's not the right. Well, that was. But yeah, so we're at 83,556. So the 80,000 stretch goal has been unlocked. We're moving on to the 90,000, which is the Necronite playable character card. Let's see, where's that shot of him? Right here. So once we hit 90, everybody will get this 7x10. Cool shot of the Necronite on the front and all his playable stats on the back.
colored by Dan Lawless, the awesome Dan.
Dan the man. So you can read the book. You can play the game that Dennis is writing for Kor-Drath. Definitely check it out. Links are in the description below. You can read the first 8 pages on the campaign, or you can click here, which will take you to the website, hit interior pages, and the first 11 pages are up on the site, so you can read those. You can click on them and blow them up bigger and everything. So you can check that out there. So you can get a nice, good 11-page feel for the 76-page story. Just scratching the surface of it.
More to come, right?
That's right.
Plenty more to come.
Plenty.
And then when you get finished with that, jump over and order Thunder Hunters.
That's right. And then, like we said, we had Mark on talking about Thunder Hunters, and we appreciate him taking the time with us this afternoon. We will be back next Wednesday with another guest who I'm looking to solidify. Let's see, what do we got here? Let's read some comments. I love comments. You can see Andy's head enlarged when he's doing math. It does. So,
and then it explodes, and then you have to clean off the ceiling. So it's nothing that a good old mop can't
why do you
do.
got to take it? That is so disgusting. You and your porn addiction, talking about exploding on the ceiling. Keep that to your house, not on my clean channel.
And this is what I deal with on a daily basis with Andy.
AJ says he's looking forward to getting the book, and thank you for coming on with us. If he'll ever come back after Dennis's outing, good Lord. I apologize, Mark. I had no idea he was going to turn. You know, when Dennis searches for stuff, he doesn't use Google. He uses the dark web. I don't even know what that is. It sounds dark, though.
I don't know. I heard 4chan and 8chan is the place to grab everything that Andy wants to talk about. So I just go there.
Okay.
Well, thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate it. And it's a lot of fun. And I'm glad you showed a bunch of the artwork and hopefully got some more people excited. We got some things, thank you for getting me more subscribers. The only thing I can say is order 2. They're small.
That's right.
Father used to say.
There you go.
And, because again, I'm looking at what you guys are doing in your book, and I'm always sort of that anomaly where I've always worked on, I call it the fringe, because you've got the superhero, the barbarian, and you guys do that stuff so well,
Oh, thank you.
I'm sort of the dinosaur pimple guy, I worked with Clive Barker, Lansdale, some Odd Baron stuff. So I'm always on that sort of edge of, because I just go, there's too many good people out there that can draw the superhero stuff much, much, much better. And, so I congratulate you guys for your skills and your abilities and what you're doing. It is phenomenal,
Well, and it's one of those things. I look at your type of work and I look at, really cartoony looking stuff. And I go, man, I just don't see things that way,
Mm-hmm.
And it is, we all do have our niche, you said earlier, as a commercial artist, you really have to be able to draw everything.
Yeah.
But you hope to get to a point someday where you can just draw what, you want to draw, what lights your fire and stuff. But when we were starting out, it was always like, oh, I got to draw this. Okay. So
but in a lot of cases, I look at it this way, that if you're lucky to find a good following and, working in some of the, the pop culture stuff like Batman, Spider-Man, you develop a base of people that see your work. I mean, my base is from Aliens, so it's a little different than what other people's are. Even though I got to ink that crazy Graham Nolan on Skywolf, that son of a gun, he was just such a joy to ink, I have to admit. And,
Right.
you know, I've got to ink Manola. I got to ink, come on, Kevin O'Neill on Marshall Latex Manhattan. I mean, how can you complain about that? You
What
can't.
did you ink Mignolo on?
I did a Hellraiser story with Mike.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Because again, Mike is the kind of guy who sits down and says, how little can I draw to get my point across?
Right.
Whereas I'm kind of like the opposite extreme of if I'm not doing the reflection on the fly's toenail, there's something wrong with the drawing, you know?
Yeah.
So it's always fun to see how different people work. And that, I mean, Kevin O'Neill is still one of my favorite artists, and Mike is too. And, you know, Mike has a very certain type of line he likes to use, and he spots black beautifully.
Oh,
He's a
yeah.
great storyteller, you know. Kevin O'Neill he's just wackily funny, you know, and great. I just love his artwork, and I loved what he did. So he was a lot of fun to do. And I've inked Joe Staten, you know, which is a completely different kind of thing on the Huntress. And Joe is an incredible consummate storyteller.
Yep.
And I'm glad I got to ink him. I mean, I owe a lot to him. And, you know, I mean, there's a bunch of other people I haven't mentioned, but yeah, inking was a great thing for me because it allowed me to see how different people thought. And when I inked most of them, my attitude was trying to bring out what I saw in the pencils. Right. I wasn't trying to go in and ink me on them because there's a lot of great inkers out there. I mean, I look at someone like Klaus Janson, you know, I mean, when you get Klaus Janson back, it's going to be a Klaus Janson ink. You're going to know, you know.
Yeah.
So that guy was phenomenal. I mean, he could ink Gene Colan, whereas I think if I got a Gene Colan page, I would just run out and jump in front of a bus.
Well, so, I mean, that is one of the things, you know, Gene is one of those guys. I've never inked Gene, and I still look at his pencils from back then and look at him and go, it'd be fun, but man, that's a lot of work.
It is, because he was penciling for pencil, you know.
Yeah.
He
was shading, which, you know, in comics, when new artists come up to show portfolios and they do shading, you tell them, you go, well, somebody has to ink this. You can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But the way Gene did it, because he was such a good artist and craftsman, you could ink it. You know, Tom Palmer, like you said, Klaus Janson.
Yeah. You know, Palmer did some of the most beautiful inking on him also. Yeah.
Yeah. And his stuff was inkable, but generally when somebody does shading like that, you usually go, no, that's a no-no. This isn't fine art. It's got to be inkable. You know, most guys would look at that and not have a clue on what to do, you know?
Yeah. And then there's a lot of inkers that, you know, the penciler uses a ruler to do all the buildings and they just do it freehand, and the penciler is, you know, ready to hang himself or kill the inker. So it's interesting. It's a really interesting thing when you're on both sides of the line there, because I just always remember I was talking to State about that. I said, yeah, if Hillary pencils something beautifully and I ink it and you go, boy, that was really beautifully done, I go, yeah, the pencils were great and I could really bring that out. Then if they go, that was really terrible, I go, yeah, you should have seen the pencils. They were really bad.
That's right.
We get that way out. It's like, I always remember, I'm not going to go into that story, but anyway.
All right. All right. Well, we're gonna say goodbye for the week, and thanks for coming on, Mark. Hang out in the back room after we sign off.
Okay.
And we will catch you guys next week. If we do a movie review, I'm going out of town tomorrow, so it won't be until Sunday. So possibly Sunday we will be seeing the movie Sisu, and
let me just
drop a movie review.
Can I say one thing?
Yeah.
If people want to go to Facebook, and there's Mark A. Nelson, and there's also Grazing Dinosaur Press. I'm posting new stuff and drawings all the time. If you go to YouTube and you go to Grazing Dinosaur Press, I have 5 drawing tutorial videos up. and talk about a little bit the way I do. And I'm Grazing Dinosaur Press on Instagram.
Oh,
there you
excellent.
go.
I'll check that stuff out. Cool. All right, everybody. I'm serious. I love watching that stuff.
Let me know what you think. I'm real curious. I'd be curious.
Yeah, I'll definitely look at it. All right, everyone. We will catch you later. Thank you again for joining us on this fun stream, talking art and talking about Thunder Hunters. Go check out Thunder Hunters. Go check out Kor-Drath. And for those that missed it, here's the new Kor-Drath trailer. Bye-bye, everybody. No gang signs, Dennis.